Hello and welcome to another amazing Wednesday live stream with Omniverse. Today we have a great show ahead of us with some incredible guests, four incredible guests, two from our own NVIDIA and two from one of our amazing partners. Today you can tell that I am not Edmar. Edmar is here on vacation, hopefully having a great time. They pulled me back out of storage and dusted me off. I am Richard Yarlett. I am the NVIDIA Forum Manager. Back today to substitute for Edmar, but never replace. I'm going to bring in my amazing co-host today. We have the lovely Ashley. Say hi, Ashley.
Hello, Ashley.
Yeah, you know Ashley from her Learn With Me series. And I'm normally on with Edmar to do the forums, but today we are here to co-host this together. And what an amazing show we have today. I have to say that we have four of the most creative people in one live stream I've ever seen. We have Kevin and Peter from NVIDIA. They are senior members of our NVIDIA creative team. They're going to talk to you today about generative AI, OpenUSD workflows with Omniverse, and product configurators. So the first half of the show will be coming from them. And the second half of the show, we're very honored to have two amazing people from the incredible agency WPP, one of the largest agencies in the world. And if you've turned on the television in the last 30 years, then you know that you've seen a WPP product somewhere. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Ashley, why don't you take us away with the exciting news coming up in the next 2 weeks?
Okay, so we have SIGGRAPH coming up. SIGGRAPH is in Denver this year in Colorado, and it's July 28th to August 1st. And the first thing that I would love to highlight is that we have so many OpenUSD things going on during the week of SIGGRAPH. First thing is going to be Tuesday on July 30th. This is an all-day thing from the very beginning, 8 a.m. until the end of the day at 5 p.m. We have OpenUSD Day. So there's going to be a lot of industry leaders giving talks and panels that you can join. And then on Wednesday, July 31st, same thing, all day long. We're going to have a bunch of training labs. Everyone remembers and loves our Jen Baruki. She's going to be leading so many of those labs, so you'll want to check those out. She's awesome to take a lab from. If you've been to one of them at GTC or SIGGRAPH before, you know. And then we have also on Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. is OpenUSD Developer Meetup. So we did something similar like this at GTC and at SIGGRAPH before. It's a really fun way to get together, have a bite to eat. I'm not sure if we're having bite to eats at this one. I really hope so, because that's what drives me to these events is food.
Food is always good, yeah.
Yeah, so join us 5 to 7. Richard will be there. I will be there. Edmar will be there. I'm going by Edmar 2.0 today, but you can call me Ashley at that event. And then we have one of the most important things at SIGGRAPH is on Monday, July 29th from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. in the Bluebird Ballroom. Jensen is going to be at SIGGRAPH, and he's going to be sitting down with Lauren Good. She's a senior writer at Wired, and they're going to be discussing how accelerated computing and Gen AI are transforming all of our industries, most importantly, manufacturing, and how those are creating new opportunities for innovation and growth. So this is something you don't want to miss.
No, this is it. They call it the keynote for a reason. This is Jensen. I think this is the second year he's done this, which is really amazing. So definitely put that on your early calendar for Monday. That is the big keynote. And then the final news we have is this week and this month we're evangelizing one of our greatest developers, Michael Wagner with SyncTwin. This is a great example of a community-based member that's written an incredible extension, SyncTwin, to help with generative AI and OpenUSD, which is today is the main flavor of topic for today's talk. And moving on to that, let's get into it with our first guest. This is a senior. He's the senior creative director for NVIDIA. It's Kevin Margot. Say hi, Kevin.
Hello. Hi, Kevin.
How's it going? Hey, yeah, so I know we're here to talk about configurators and Omniverse, USD, and generative AI. So about a year ago, Perry and the WPP folks that that you'll meet a little later on, we started collaborating and exploring, how they could effectively use Omniverse, USD, and generative AI for their goals. And then our creative team internally, we're here to help kind of dog food a lot of our technologies that we're exploring, and kind of help shepherd some of our clients to use similar workflows. So when they were looking to embrace all these concepts, we saw as an opportunity to create a prototype reference workflow that would scale up the concepts to fully configured commercials. Not just still images or static scenes, but full 30-second commercials that were custom tailored to audiences based on lifestyle, preferred accessories, car color, and even regions and time of day based on weather. So we have I'm going to show a series of videos, and we can talk through each one of them afterwards. Richard, do you want to roll the first one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and roll part 1, and then we'll be right back in a small while.
Traditionally, most car commercials require extensive resources and a physical location. If a car company wanted to show the versatility of their vehicle with varying accessories and looks in different environments and target a particular market, it would require more people, time, and cost. Let's take a look at potential car buyer Nathan from Southern California. He loves being active on the weekends to balance his busy work schedule and is looking to upgrade his daily ride to something that can accompany him on his adventures. Based on his location, time zone, and current local weather conditions, he sees an ad for his new potential ride. The creative 3D team at NVIDIA set out to demonstrate how developing a new pipeline and custom-built tools could overcome these challenges using USD and generative AI. This solution was built on Omniverse, making it possible to harness USD to enable the creation of unique variations for consumers. Using conventional methodologies within USD, 3D artists can change car materials, parts, and accessories, as well as the environment of the 3D scene itself. USD makes it easy to configure variants, while Omniverse allows artists to bring their content in from different software packages and DCC applications. Generative AI supercharges these workflows. Using Edify Text to 360, artists create sky domes to illuminate their scenes, which can lead to infinite lighting scenarios, all generated from simple text prompts. With Edify Text to 3D, artists can set dress more efficiently by creating supporting assets for their environments, infusing a sense of life and realism to the scenes.
Wow. Amazing.
So pretty.
All right. Yeah, so that touched on a few things. Omniverse was the platform that we made this car configurator commercial prototype on. Our team's been working with it for 4 or 5 years now. It's really great based on USD, super scalable. The architecture of USD allows for scaling out and creating many variants and iterations based on underlying content pretty easy. Generative AI was a big component in helping that scalability. The video mentioned how you could custom tailor like the environment or skies based on a time. So kind of where this is going is let's say you want to target somebody that lives in Denver wintertime, and you want to really effectively sell them on the idea of buying this car. Well, what's the weather conditions? Oh, and it's January when they're going to see this commercial. And it's in the morning because they're just having their coffee. They're about to go off to work. If you could get down to that level of niche, like custom targeting of these commercials where, okay, what's the weather? Oh, it's cloudy, overcast, and it's morning light, and it just snowed yesterday. We're going to generate like a sky dome on that. Generative AI used for text to 3D. So text to 3D is a new concept where you type in a prompt, it generates a 3D mesh. It's progressing really quickly, the quality of these outputs. But right now, what we see them being effectively used for is kind of mid to background set dressing And as you saw in the video, we were able to generate a bunch of houses, snow-covered houses, to populate the hillsides. Really, really awesome technology. Really accelerates the artist workflow.
It looks so real. I mean, I know we've said for quite a few years now, when you watch television commercials, people struggle to know what is real and what is not real. But this takes it to the next level. I mean, it looks photoreal, and yet essentially it's kind of a dynamic asset where you can swap things in and out as needed.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
and
just incredible.
Yeah, and then the Omniverse RTX render in both the real time and path trace mode. The path trace mode is pretty fast too, so you're able to kind of iterate and generate a lot of production quality content pretty quickly. I mentioned Gen AI. The other thing that generative AI is really effective for is, I think there's many perceptions of what generative AI is. Like, a lot of people are familiar with like text prompting and getting like a static image, right? Now text to video, we just showed text to 3D, but also generative AI can be used at every level of the production process. That doesn't necessarily create the final output, but accelerates every step of the process along the way. So what I'm about to show you, the video part 2, touches into virtual production and how a natural language interface with your software can make for a really great experience creating content, and accelerated as well. So, Rashid, can you roll that second video?
Great. Back in 90 seconds.
Generative AI also contributes to our virtual production processes by giving the Omniverse viewport eyes, ears, and a brain. Using custom-developed AI agents connecting Omniverse to ChatGPT, we are able to use voice commands to control tasks.
Set the field of view to 100.
Setting FOV.
Set the f-stop to 2.
Setting f-stop.
Focus.
Focusing.
Zoom out 50%.
Zooming out.
From now on, when I say establishing shot, I want you to boom up and dolly out.
Noted. When you say establishing shot, I will interpret that as a command to boom up and dolly out.
Do the establishing shot.
Booming up and dolly out.
Cycle light.
Cycling light.
Do that again.
Cycling lights.
Neva Machine Vision provides large language model vision assistance to naturally describe what is seen on screen.
What am I looking at?
You are looking at an image of a couple posing for a picture on the side of a road by a body of water. The couple is the focal point of the photograph.
And the integration of blip vision allows for real-time object detection, enabling manipulation directly in the Omniverse viewport.
Select the couple.
Selecting object.
Rotate 90 degrees.
Rotating the selected object.
All right.
Wow.
Okay, wait, that whole thing is really good, but I just need to say this one thing because I love it every single time. When the AI voice says focusing, it says like focusing, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just so funny to me and I love it. It's really
it
cute.
reminds me of that movie Blade Runner. I know it's an audio thing, but like when he says zoom in, enhance. I mean, it's getting to that point where you're speaking to a computer, it's understanding natural language, and it's running powerful graphics command all in real time, like a DP.
And so when you think about it, it's like, what to do that kind of stuff, what would you have had to learn before? Like 15 years ago, you would be staring at this massive interface with like hundreds of buttons, and each has a rollout with different versions of those buttons. And you got to memorize all that stuff and then start to understand how to chain them together to get the desired result. Now if you understand the concepts of what you're trying to achieve, you can just talk to your software and it does it for you. It's amazing. The machine vision stuff too. I kind of summarized it at the beginning of the video. Eyes, ears, and a brain to your software. It can see, it can hear, it can talk back to you, and by interacting with that, you can exert operations or manipulate the scene accordingly. Super exciting stuff. I think we're just scratching the surface with this.
The main thing I like is the way that you were stood up vertically with that handheld device, which is obviously like it's real-time tracking. So again, nothing is pre-baked, real time. And I guess this is the whole thing with virtual production, where you can actually establish shots as a human, as a camera operator, without needing a mouse and keyboard, as if a real photographer would do that.
And you can think about, what we're basically trying to emulate with that workflow that you saw is imagine you're on a live action film set and it's like some big blockbuster movie and there's like 200 people standing around and they all have their certain like roles, but you're not exposed, you don't have access to those resources, right? You're an independent filmmaker, but you want to kind of operate in the same way that a studio would. Now you're able to kind of talk to your cinematographer and he talks back, and talk to your set dresser, and it's all automated. It's democratizing the process, so you can kind of think at a higher level as a creative to paint a bigger vision with less resources. All right. The other thing that I want to touch on before I hand it off to Peter, pipeline. A lot of the automation that you saw is it requires a responsible foundation laid. You need to figure out how you're going to organize your assets and build a bunch of artist-facing tooling to facilitate the scalability. And Omniverse is a platform for developers to build custom interfaces to serve their unique production goals. So let's roll this clip, Richard, that talks about the pipeline tooling.
Okay, back in a minute.
On the developer side of the team, our pipeline specialists created a suite of customized tools and extensions that further empower our artists to assemble their 3D scenes. These include the Cine Builder, providing custom lists to choose, location and lighting scenario, vehicle color, driver and passengers, as well as accessories, to automatically put together the desired commercial without opening a single file. Shot Manager, to manage these commercials' inputs and outputs on shot level, allowing us to route these newly created USDs straight to the render farm. And AutoNuke Script Builder, to add predefined templates like grades and lens effects to the finished renders. Altogether, these custom-built tools show an example of mass creation, rendering, and management of a customized set of commercials, allowing the repetitive work to be automated so that our artists and developers can spend more time on their actual crafts. Thanks to USD and generative AI being leveraged in 3D workflows built on Omniverse, creative and technical challenges are much easier to solve. What used to take teams weeks to produce can now happen with fewer people in less time.
All right.
Incredible.
So that touched on the tooling that kind of made this scalability possible. Richard, you have one last video. It's 30 seconds long. Basically, the foundation we laid with the various environments, the various sky domes, the different car colors, and the accessories on the roof and everything, basically created this is a real thing. We could literally render 700 30-second commercials, and each one of them are visually unique. We're going to play 3 of them for you right now. The narration that you're going to hear is also used generative AI. We helped write the script and then also generated the VO. So Richard, go ahead. Play.
All right, so here's 3 of those selections.
The all-new NVIDIA Omni Sport. Ready for action, ready for adventure. Cruising along the stunning coastline, this is where your journey begins.
With enough space to pack it all, the Omni Sport is ready for your adventures.
With power and precision that give you the ultimate edge in any condition. NVIDIA. Test drive today.
All right. So the last thing I want to touch on before I hand off to Peter is that, you can't have infinite variables. You need some sort of structure. So with this 30-second commercial, you will have noticed that the cameras, the shots are the same, the editorials the same, the shot cuts are the same, the animation of the car on the road is the same, and everything else around it changes. So that was kind of like the constants that you needed to then create all the visual variation on top of. So with effective planning, everything, you kind of lay the foundation to do this scalability. So I'm going to hand it off to Peter Wildman now.
He's going to hand it off to Peter. So here's Peter Wildman.
What's up,
Hi,
Peter?
how's it going? Hey. So I'm going to talk about how we actually made the thing. I'm going to share a deck real quick. I should probably introduce myself. So I'm the director of the pipeline for Kevin's group and the creative group. So we come up with the ideas, and then we make the stuff to make those ideas happen. Can you put up the deck for me?
There you go.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so as Kevin said, we were kind of tasked with making the commercial configurator pretty early on as kind of like a proof of concept. And this could have been very difficult to do, but because of USD, like OpenUSD, made it actually, and our pipeline being in USD, made it not like a super heavy lift. So I'm gonna kind of get into the details a little bit. In kind of a simplified version, just to let you guys understand what's going on. But the commercial configurator just takes a template cinematic and it makes as many cinematics as you want with like point out in the video with like different what we call configurations. So these are kind of like different things you can make, you can change. So you're allowed to change in the cinematic. What we noticed really quickly was like just a handful of these and you can make like a lot of commercials. Right? It starts to add up very, very quickly. Okay, so why did USD make it simple, right? So if I were to give you a still image and I would ask you to replace the sky, that'd be like a little bit of business, right? But if I say, here's the Photoshop file and the sky's on a layer, just swap that out, it becomes a lot easier. And 3D is the same exact way. So we can see here, right, like just as there's many ways to compose in USD, but if you just think of it in like the simplest like layer form, you put a bunch of information on different layers and you kind of boil it up to the top, and then you get your set result, right? Something a little more relevant, right? In this example, you bring in a car model, and then on your anim layer, you bring in car animation, and then the final result is a moving car. And this is kind of the principles on why USD is a powerful thing to use. So when we do any work, we stamp out all the USD for all the shots in the very, very beginning, right? It's completely empty, but it's all it all composes all together. And what that gives us is like a place to do everything, like a place where everyone can publish information, and also our tools know where to go. So everything's kind of set up from the very, very beginning. The other nice thing, because of this composing idea, is that anytime we want, we can open up like the base file of that thing and see the composed result. So at any time in the process, you want to see how close you are to being done, you can see everybody's work all pushed together, and they don't step on each other, right? Everybody can work at the same time. Okay. So in our structure, we have this idea of a sequence, and the sequence is kind of like a scene. You can think of it as like a set with actors, or that's shared by shots, or you can think of it like a factory that has shared sims, or basically any pool of information that's going to be shared by all the pieces that you're going to make further along. And then what we do is with that is we pipe it into the base file of the shots in this case. And then all the unique data for said shot, then we pipe in its own way, like the camera, like a camera is obviously unique per shot, or the animation for that shot, and that all gets piped into that shot base. And then that makes up our structure. And we do that for everything. This is before a commercial configurator. Any project we start, we stamp that stuff out, and then everything flows perfectly.
That's cool to know. So like you can use like a traditional pipeline into the new pipeline, and it all is built cohesively. You don't have to like change it up into a whole new thing, right?
Exactly. So no matter what we're doing, like it's just the ideas, right? Like so it doesn't super matter what we're making. It's just that we have these ideas in our pipe, and with USD we kind of feed them into whatever we're trying to make. And so in that vein, like for the commercial configurator, we had like this new idea where like there would be these configuration files, right? So these configuration files are those things that you're picking, and quite literally, like through the UI, you're really just picking these small USD files and injecting them into that scene base that I just talked about. And then from that, right, you inject everything into the entire commercial for like the snowy mountain and the red car, and voila, you have a snowy mountain, red car cinematic. So just show you kind of how easy it is. So the template shot, this is what we always stamp out. We build a cinematic like this. That's our kind of business as usual. And then to make the commercial configurator, we just kind of stamped out the same thing, but just changed the pointers, right? So now instead of pointing at like the assets that we made into the template cinematic, we're starting to point into those configuration files. And then we change the pointers to make it so that the shot cam feeds from the template cinematic, and then the animation comes from like the shared things come from all the template stuff, and then this very relatively small file, which is just pointers, then makes up an entire new commercial, right? Like, so the files that make this thing up are just pointers to locations, and they're it's very, very lightweight, and actually for us it wasn't very hard to make because of USD, right? But that said, right, like with anything, it's easy to make a proof of concept sometimes, but like as you add complexity, it adds complexity, right? So as you want to do more things, you need to solve more problems. But as Kevin said, like we're kind of trying to do a vertical slice and just show what would be possible without, with our pipeline already set up in USD. It was 2 weeks work to get this thing off the ground and running. So it's very, very easy.
You said 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And without all of the components that you guys built for this, it would have been much longer than that, right?
Yeah, I think it would have been much longer than that. It would be
like months, right?
Yeah, and it's really like it's the ideas, right? So like even if you're building like a large version of this, if you're using USD and composing your outflow, your output, it's going to be much easier than if you're kind of using like a flat giant structure, right? Because like for us, we're kind of flipping switches and pointing things, and at a certain point, and it's much, it's lightweight and easy to do. I mean, this is what USD was made to do, right? Like this is they had this problem that this stuff was very, very hard, and then they're like, oh, we'll make USD and make it easy to do.
Well, okay, that's a good point to bring up, because I saw in the chat someone asked, like, someone was saying, who is OpenUSD supported by? And when we say they, like who created OpenUSD or who created USD, it's Pixar. Pixar created this for their pipeline. They create all these different 3D movies. They started with Toy Story and they built up from there, and they had all these complexities in building these scenes. So they needed something to solve, to have those solutions. And when they open sourced it, I think it was like, 2015, 2016, now it's available for industry, for anyone to be able to use it. So then we created OpenUSD, which is the alliance of OpenUSD, and now we have NVIDIA, we have Autodesk, we have Pixar. I'm definitely missing somebody from there, supporting this and creating this standardized file format that allows for all these actions to happen across industries, from manufacturing, creative, blow it up even further as far as you want.
And it's more than I think a lot of people see it as, when they first start out, they see it as a file format, but it's more than that, right? And I think that's what I'm trying to say is it's a way of working. It's like an idea, and then that opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah,
and
file format's like limiting. Like we just don't have the words we need to like
exactly
invent a new word for it.
Yeah, it's weird. You get it high enough up in the USD people, and it's more like a religion for them. Like it's very right. Like it's like a very
you better not say file format to them.
Yeah. So, but who's supporting it? I think you see it more and more. I almost everything is supporting USD at this point. Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
Well, I think it's funny that you used to be able to pick your own car color with a configurator. Now you can pick your own car commercial. You can have it in the snow with a white car, with a family of 5, whatever. So things are really moving fast. And
it makes me want to sell my new car and buy whatever car this is, this unbranded car.
The Omniverse, whatever we called it. I can't remember the OP car. Yeah. Okay, Kevin, I'll give it back to you if you want to.
Is that the end? Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, well, listen. Let me take this down. That's done. And now it's time to move on to our second segment. This is where we're going to turn the tables, and rather than focusing on the 2 people that helped create this tool, we're going to now look at the partner, WPP, and we're going to hear from 2 people about how they're actually using this tool. So first of all, let me introduce. I think we're going to just say goodbye to you and Kevin for a second. Bye-bye. And here comes Perry Nightingale. Hi, Perry.
Hello. Hi.
If you want to introduce yourself to the world.
Yeah, my name is Perry. I'm SVP of Creative AI for WPP. We joined the Alliance for OpenUSD a few months ago.
Yay! I knew I was missing someone. It was you guys.
We shall test you, Ashley, on all. There's actually many members, so many members. They're like,
I need a multiple choice. It can't be like I can't like type in my answers or write out my answer. I need multiple choice.
So we're very, very excited about the potential for that platform. But yeah, I work in the office of the CTO, and my role is, we're one of the largest buyers of creative software in the world. We have almost 45,000 artists working at WPP.
Wow.
And my role is to think about the future of how they're going to make work, which obviously leads to you guys many, many times. So, yeah.
Well, Joe, let's start off with your incredible sizzle reel, just to introduce WPP for those who don't know anything about the company. And we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Start your walk.
Take a look at the results.
How could we use
Machine learning,
AI,
technology to help people in a life-changing way?
Wow. I need to start my day with that sizzle reel. Like the motivation I feel from watching that and the sound, I just want to get up and I want to go running.
I have to say, NVIDIA does a good job with their sizzle reel, but you guys are right there too. I mean, the amount of brand recognition in just that 1 2-minute clip.
Yeah, when you said the last 30 years, you might have seen of it. I would have my money on the last 30 minutes, Richard. To be totally honest, you'll have probably seen something.
Well, you said how many artists
touch many verticals.
Yeah. How many artists were working at WPP?
Oh, tens of thousands.
Okay, so you really see it and how beautiful that sizzle reel is.
Yeah, we have an agency in almost every country in the world. Yeah, there's a
Amazing.
WPP Mauritius, which I'm always dying to get sent to.
Well, let me bring in your guest as well. Another incredible person from the company. This is Rachel Mendoza from Hogarth.
Hello there.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey. Yeah, I'm the head of NVIDIA Solutions within the production arm of WPP. So all of the ideas and innovation that Perry is doing in the CTO office, it comes across to me for sort of operationalization with our clients. So how are we going to translate that into using Omniverse, generative AI at scale to create those efficiencies that our clients are asking for?
That's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
you have a big company.
Kevin, and then they come to me, and then they end up with Rachel to go and deliver across like 20,000 people and 50 markets. So, we wanted to share a little bit in this presentation, just the realities, right, of going from something like you saw at the beginning to, watching an ad in China for Audi or Ford or someone,
Well, speaking of the work, do you want to run your amazing presentation and
so
these incredible details?
Yeah, I'm going to share, and we'll just sort of look at a couple of things. So obviously, WPP makes, as you saw in the sizzle reel, vast array of work, right? So half the Super Bowl ads this year, if you saw Beyonce doing the Verizon ad or the Hellman's Mayo Cat or something, we do those big TV ads, right down to like these really clever digital activations. So in Australia for the National Egg, union or foundation, we actually got little Fitbits and we made harnesses for chickens with the Fitbits, put them on the chickens, and then printed their step counters onto the eggs to show how far they'd roamed, basically that they were healthier chickens. And
Wow.
these were so popular, they sold out because they were on the news and everybody wanted step counters on their eggs. And then, that became a really huge story. So, do a huge array of stuff from Super Bowl ads to, putting steps on eggs, right? So just this really vast array.
That's incredible.
We really don't see AI ever coming up with fit, these are called fit chicks. We just really don't see AI coming up with fit chicks. But this is, the vast array of work that we do. But we also make car ads, right? We do $1 billion of automotive business. And that's just by revenue, not by media billings, which is even greater number. So we do a lot of car ads. I've been working with NVIDIA for about 4 years, roughly. I mean, indirectly for 15 years, but for 4 years more directly. And I worked in 2020 on a concept with Microsoft for the Surface devices that was looking at creative AI. I used to spend 6 months explaining to people what an SVP of creative AI did. I don't have to do that anymore. But back then, this was how is creative AI, generative AI going to help create ads? And this was where we trained an AI on almost 20,000 images of parrots, and each parrot came with like a corresponding map that we made. So this was using Galgan, which is one of your pieces of code ages ago. And then it would learn the relationship between the birds and the shapes, and you'd be able to paint new parrots, right? And this was like a really early concept, mainly with Microsoft, around what those tens of thousands of artists would be using to make work, in 5 or 10 years time, right? Some of these images were really, really beautiful. This was like our vision of how we'd make ads one day, right? It's the first thing we basically worked on. So these beautiful birds, which look really stunning. And then, because it's AI, you also got to see parrots that couldn't have existed in the real world. So this is a square one. And this is a perfectly circular one. And everyone was like, why are you making perfectly circular parrots? And Microsoft wanted to build an installation of this in their headquarters, and they needed NVIDIA's permission. So they called you guys and said, are we okay to make a big one of these? And you said, oh, we love the circular ones. Come and have a look at this. And it was Omniverse. So that was 4 years ago. We were some of the first clients in the world to see this. So we started working with you, and in particular on the creation of the environments those vehicles drive through. So we saw an opportunity for WPP to work with these technologies you see here, especially USD, to build up libraries of virtual worlds that our clients could drive cars through, or, we might have retail stores or whatever it might be. We have large clients with very expensive stores. I'm sure you can probably imagine what one or two of those are. And closing one of those big stores on a Sunday or Saturday is really expensive. So, we saw that one day we'd have these big libraries, and this is what we've seen happen. And then, we'd work in the cloud to take cars or whatever they might be and render out these different ads as you sort of saw them there. So we set about building these libraries of virtual worlds and worked a lot with you on how we would basically do that. So, this was something 2 or 3 years ago that was in GTC. We sort of went up to Scotland, worked with an oil and gas business, flew over these forests in Scotland with this LiDAR drone, basically, that does this kind of like LiDAR scan downwards. And then they had the same thing on the ground. So they would go around kind of like doing a LiDAR scan of the forest from the ground. And that would create this massive point cloud of these environments, right? Which would then crunch with machines that you and Microsoft helped us to put together and create these really beautiful 3D models of these environments, right? That were so accurate. You could see like insects and stuff on the bark. And then we'd fly with other drones and take lots of photos. And then we'd take the photos from these drones and the models from the LiDAR, and we'd put those together, and then create these photorealistic environments, much like the one you saw the cars driving through before. So a lot of our work was kind of in these environments.
Wow, absolutely stunning.
The oil and gas companies were quite expensive. And they also scanned much bigger areas than we needed. We only needed a little bit, and they'd be like, here's the whole forest. And it was 200 gigabytes and 20 billion points. And it took 3 months to open. And we were like, no, we need something else. So we invested in Spot. So we have the world's first filming robot. And we say robots are so much more interesting making films than being in films. So now Spot goes up and down the roads and he does the scans for the car ads. And those are the models that, the cars you saw at the beginning with Kevin actually drive through. They are stored in Spot's head out on these shoots. And he is like a member of our team. Wherever we go on our shoots, he goes out there too, does these scans. And it's much more sustainable because we don't have to take, all 50 vehicles in all their colors and hundreds of people and the lighting trucks and everything else. We actually have pioneered using robotics and LiDAR to bring the scans back to our shoot. So, that's kind of...
I mean, I'm also thinking it's like less destructive on the environment too. If you're bringing all these cars and people and you're going across, there's no roads there, so you're driving on the land. Like, that's not good for the environment.
That's in Namibia.
Yeah,
that's in Namibia. And after the Mad Max film was shot there, they caused so much damage that no one was allowed to film traditionally in Namibia ever again. And so that example is actually a place that only Spot and a small team can go. And we talked to a few of our clients about actually sustainability can be an opportunity to open up new areas that you wouldn't have traditionally have been able to film in. And obviously the weather doesn't matter so much because you shoot it back at home and, all these other things. So we pioneered the creation of these environments and went to many of our largest clients and said, look, we've got these worlds and, NVIDIA have built this configurator that, will generate these ads. Would you be interested in doing that? And they said, yes. And then it cascades down through tens of thousands of people. And Rachel, I'm going to hand over to you about what it's like when you have to convince huge numbers of people to go on this journey with us.
Right. Yeah. What tends to happen is Perry will obviously, and NVIDIA and Perry, there will be an awful lot of excitement about the art of what's possible, but the productization and the operationalization of it requires a huge coordination effort of people who fundamentally have to change the way they work. And someone was referencing this earlier in the conversation, right? It's more than a file format. It is a way of working, but it's a change in a way of working. It creates huge efficiencies and huge scope for producing new content at scale, but content supply chains that WPP work in are incredibly complicated. So if you think about we just put aside environments and backgrounds for a second, if we think about the product itself, and someone in the chat was talking about a sofa that had 76,500 configurations. A car is even more complicated than that, right? And you've got design, manufacturing, engineering, all inputting into a data set, different data sets in different formats, right? And it's changing as the vehicle gets closer and closer to rolling off the manufacturing production line. Product updates are being made all the time. So Kevin was talking earlier about the importance of the USD pipeline tooling. And part of the first step that we have to do is create the digital product twin by taking all of those pieces of data, standardizing them, converting them into USD, putting them in the Omniverse environment, but also building the USD pipeline around it. Because if a client is going to make that investment, they need to know that it's scalable and is going to provide a return on investment, right? So if we think about the fact that a vehicle life cycle might be a number of years, there'll be lots of product updates that happen to that vehicle over time. And we want to automate those product updates being applied through our OpenUSD pipeline. So part of the challenge is building that pipeline, getting everyone to move out of the sort of legacy tooling that they've been using and coming on board into and operating within our USD pipeline. And that's just to get the product in place. And then we put it with the incredible backgrounds that, using the innovation that Perry and NVIDIA have created. And now I'm going to hand back to Perry to talk about generative AI and how we scale even further by talking by generating backgrounds using AI. You're muted.
You're muted there, Perry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Rachel deeply loves the challenge of unpicking all of these complexities.
As well, Perry.
We do. For some reason, the more complicated it is, the more we do it. It's like those necklaces that get all tangled up, and you just have to try and unpick it tiny bit by tiny bit.
I call them, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, these things have been built up over many, many years when countries would fax in orders and all these other kind of things, right? And it's just not as simple as a prototype or a concept, right? It's really tricky and it involves a lot of people. thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. And, Rachel's kind of our secret weapon to go in and sort of help to kind of tackle all of that. So generative AI, this began, as I showed you, sort of 3 or 4 years with generative AI. And, I think we took a really interesting sort of side turn for 2 or 3 years to work on simulation in 3D, right? Which is a huge part of NVIDIA's world. And then when generative AI came back out again, or resurged again, sort of in ChatGPT time and Midjourney, a lot of our clients went onto ChatGPT or they went onto Midjourney and they made ads, right? And they came back and they were like, oh, we can make our own ads. Like, my kids make the ads. We don't need you anymore. And we said, well, have you looked at the ads like closely? And what they saw was that first of all, they saw their logos were inaccurate. And that's actually not a firing offense for, it's not illegal to do that, right? But you would lose your job if you did. I know designers who've put the wrong logos in or an out-of-date logo and, they've lost their jobs. It's actually very rare to see that. You don't see it very often. But the other thing is to get a product wrong in an advert, like say we put a chocolate bar in an advert and it was like a little bit longer, or, we made an advert for one of your graphics cards and the graphics cards was like a quarter smaller in the advert than it actually was. And loads of people were like, oh, amazing, I'll go buy that because it'll fit in my PC. And actually then it doesn't. That's illegal. And you get fined, right, for doing that. And we realized that all the work we'd been doing with Omniverse and USD was the perfect solution to that challenge, right? For a couple of reasons. One, we could render the products first, and that meant that we could then put the AI around the background, which is what you're going to see, in a second with what we launched. But also it would allow us to train models to create AI more accurately as well. So we announced last year at Computex a sort of joint sort of research program around that. And if you want to play the film, this was played by Jensen in the Computex keynote last year.
Oh, okay.
That's at 16.1.
16.9, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The world's industries are racing to realize the benefits of AI. NVIDIA and WPP are building a groundbreaking, generative AI-enabled content engine to enable the next evolution of the $700 billion digital advertising industry. Built on NVIDIA AI and Omniverse, this engine gives brands the ability to build and deploy product-accurate and brand-compliant content faster and more efficiently than ever before. The process starts by building a physically accurate digital twin of a product using Omniverse Cloud, which connects product design data from industry-standard tools. Then, WPP artists create customized and diverse virtual sets using a combination of digitized environments and generative AI tools by organizations such as Adobe and Getty Images, trained on fully licensed data using NVIDIA Picasso, ensuring that generative AI content remains accurate and on-brand. This unique combination of generative AI and manufacturing data allows WPP to build accurate photorealistic visual content and e-commerce experiences that bring new levels of realism and scale to the industry.
Great. Yeah, and we have more innovation announcements at SIGGRAPH in a few weeks, especially around the text to 3D space. So tune in for the announcements then.
Great. Well, what an incredible presentation by all the members of today's live stream. I'd like to bring everybody back if they want to, and we can do some questions. I see 47, 48, 49 comments on the thread, so things are really buzzing. So I'm going to bring back Kevin, and I can bring back Peter, and we can open it up. And if the lovely Amelia wants to introduce us to any of these incredible questions, let me just dive in and see what we have here.
I saw one that Zia posted that I thought was like a good way to kind of start this. Not that one. That one's great too. But this one here, how in the world does all this organization happen? In what ways has USD been transformative? And I think that can speak to both NVIDIA's creative team and WPP's team.
Absolutely. Who wants to go first? Maybe Kevin starts?
I think Peter maybe could speak to this. How does it happen?
Yeah.
I just say how it should happen.
So how Kevin wants it now, it actually happens now. It's work, right? And that's what my whole job is, right? And I can't imagine like doing it on the scale that you guys are talking about doing it on. But yeah, just even for us, right? It's a lot of tooling, and trying to take out like those kinds of decisions, right? Of like for people, like, where do I save stuff? Where do I do this? Right? It's like, it's about making like a clear drop off and pickup area essentially, but for like a lot of people and a lot of steps. And you got to break down each step and figure out, where everything goes. And then once you do that, and once you really formalize that, then you can start writing tools that understand that same thing, right? Like APIs that you can say, like, where should this be and where it is, right? Yeah, I would be interested to hear what that looks like on like 40,000 artists. Yeah.
Well, I have one thing I think we can add on that. As you can see, we're not all in an office together. We're remote. So USD is being transformative, is this just allows us all to do our jobs together. That's a good way that it organizes us. We don't have to be sitting in a conference room multiple times a day coming up with ideas. We can work asynchronously and still have it be cohesive and work together because of the way USD works.
And in several platforms as too. We're not restricted now to, the whole, what do you use? What do I use? How do we get, as more softwares come on board with OpenUSD Foundation, we've got softwares now eventually going native USD. So, it's going to be an easier world for the artists to pick their tools, the appropriate section and time, and just not worry about file formats.
That's one thing. If I could comment on that real quick, is Omniverse is one of the goals to be kind of like the collaborative interchange. So the high level is, hey, you as an artist, the tools that you know are no longer relevant to whether or not you get the job, because Omniverse and USD facilitates you to bring your creative eye, your skill, your aesthetic skills, along with your tool set, that you don't have to learn a new tool set just to be a part of this project, right? So I think that's a great way to help.
And one other thing about organization, just like the way people work, right? Like USD could be non-destructive, and it's no longer this person needs to finish, so this person can go, and then this person can go, and then this person can go, which is very difficult to schedule. But like you can start to like work like in your own area and have it composed together, not work on top of each other, but work in your own space and have your contribution happen at the same time without having to wait for this person over here to finish their part. Obviously, as you do that, it makes things harder and more complex, pipeline-wise. But I mean, it's every producer's dream, right? Like I want everyone to do all their work at the same time, right? But so yeah,
it does. When it clicks, it's amazing. When it clicks, it's amazing. Yeah, it does. I mean, Omniverse has some great. I mean, RTX, I think, is an amazing renderer, right? I think it's fast, and I think it scales very, very well, right? And especially we did a lot of work in Unreal Engine. We found the path tracer in Omniverse to be amazing, and you can chuck more and more GPUs at it, which when you're a large business is also helpful, right? Like we have one of the world's first 14 A6000 machines with us just of this week. So if you're interested, the Renderbox's Instagram has got pictures of that. You can throw a lot of kind of resource at it. But the collaboration we didn't really use for maybe a year or so, and then suddenly it kind of clicked that we had the director working on the lights, was a team was working on the models, and someone else could work on cleaning up the road from the spot, and you suddenly see all these people working on the same file, and that would originally have been handing from one place to the other. And in car companies, Rachel, that's been a problem for like decades, right? Like I think
it has. And just picking up on something that Peter said, like it is amazing having people collaborate in that way, but it can't be a total free-for-all, like sorry to be this person, but there has to be governance around it, right? Because again, particularly around the product and the data integrity around the product, there has to be controls in terms of like when it is released and to which markets that particular product is available. And there are deadlines where we've got like media spots going live for something, and it takes, there's time needed to queue it up. So absolutely, Perry, there's like a whole, and I can see comments in the chat about the different tools we use. Like we've got enterprise level project management tools and product management tools baked into our proprietary tooling in the USD pipeline, because we can't just have, there has to be guardrails and governance around the element of collaboration, because otherwise we'd never get anything published.
Yeah, I think it's great to see that these tools coming together to make it easier. Somebody asked about the size of, you mentioned about the size of companies, and scalability works both ways. I mean, meaning that you can scale it up to massive companies and massive enterprises, but it fits at any size. It doesn't have to necessarily be somebody with 31,000 artists too. It can work anywhere from a small team of creators all the way up to a large company. And especially, I'm sure, Perry, in your world, you probably use sometimes freelancers and things like that that come in.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands. I mean, we're 120,000 people altogether. So, it's an enormous, we're a large business, right? So, I think, that's what you need to manage that many artists, basically, at least 4 people to do that. But, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a complex organization, right? Just in general. I mean, someone's asked, is it only for big companies? We do specialize in those larger brands, right? But I think Omniverse is a useful tool for small studios, especially, to kind of, collaborate. I think it's very useful for them. For us, it's like this enterprise level differentiator, right? That we wire directly into these other large businesses. So, we try and cut the amount of time. Rachel and I try and cut the amount of time from design to final marketing, which in a large car company could be 2 or 3 years. And that causes so many problems, because they can't open orders up for the cars until the sort of marketing is ready. And if the marketing has to wait so long, these are businesses that spend billions of dollars shaving 0.1 seconds off their 0 to 60 time, right? So we try and help them with making their design to sort of manufacture process faster, and so does NVIDIA.
Yeah, and one of the things I've seen over the years working for NVIDIA is the way that the data can be transferred from various CAD packages, and essentially it's the great unifier. So I know we've spoke about companies with tens of thousands, even millions of assets in a database, and they could be in a proprietary software, not easily accessible. But I know that I'm thinking of at least a couple of companies I've seen where they've started to transfer their database into an OpenUSD native file format, and it means that they have that longevity and that open source ability to share assets and interpret assets with the software. So I think one of the things for me is the fact that we're getting away from this idea of locked assets, unlocked IQ and IP, and now it's just this idea that hey, you've got 1 million assets over there, we've got 1 million assets over here, and everything works together. So for me, it's file interpretation.
Yeah, we talk a lot about sort of the democratization, like the power to democratize stuff using OpenUSD. So like you say, a piece of data isn't just restricted to an engineering team because they've got the tool that created that piece of data, right? That it can then become completely interoperable and compatible using the USD file format in the pipeline.
Yeah, we haven't seen that in quite the same scale since Windows first came along, 30 years ago, because before that, files were kept in physical parts of the office, right? And you could control access to those physical pieces of information. And Windows and Office and the server, democratized information in large organizations. And we're seeing that with USD, right? It actually opens up information, product information, especially across departments.
So I always like to end with this idea of the futureverse. Perry, and I guess this is open to everybody. I mean, where do you see this going? We've got SIGGRAPH around the corner. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But let's say in the 2 or 3 years' time, where do you see this going, Perry and Kevin, in terms of the incredible resources we have available for this?
I think we're definitely seeing more exciting technologies in generative 3D, right? So, I 100% see a world where you put a headset on and you're able to conjure up worlds around you and be inside of those, right? And we see demos in our own labs that are a bit like that with some of the machines we have available. So, I think that's very interesting. But I also think these tools will always make existing professional artists better, right? They'll lower the barriers to entry to 3D and VFX, but they're not going to reduce the need for craft or any of those other things, right? And we've seen amazing work, especially from Kevin's team, highly crafted film like you saw there. And that's just never gonna go away and never gonna be less valuable. It's, we still, if anything, is gonna get more valuable, we think.
Yeah, and you mentioned a headset. I just want to also point out that all this technology eventually is going into the XR AR kind of world too. I mean, we're getting away from the conventional two-dimensional screens. I've seen a lot of incredible work. We saw some at GTC with headset work. So eventually, you can imagine combining Kevin's voice commands with headsets and generative AI. You could see people essentially creating their own worlds with voice commands. Well, I think that we've got a great panel. Is anybody any additional comments before we wrap and close today? I just want to thank all our guests. It's been an incredible opportunity to talk about this product. I say 2 people from our world and 2 people from the outside world. But Ashley, any final thoughts on this?
No final thoughts. It's all so mind-blowing to see how, I mean, NVIDIA is definitely not as big as WPP, but we've grown so much and there's so much going on. So it's really awesome to see people here at NVIDIA using the technology that we promote so much, that we love, using it exactly how it's supposed to be used, and then seeing how WPP uses very similar pipelines to make really awesome commercials. That sizzle reel was just so cool, and just how it all comes together and it all connects. And it's, you know, Richard and I started here 2 years ago, and people used to ask us, what is Omniverse and what can it do? And it was so hard to answer that question for such a long time. We knew what it could do, but to put it into words, to tell other people what it could do, it was difficult. And now here we are in 2024, and we have a live stream being like, this is what it does. And it just makes it much easier.
Yes, here we are. And actually, speaking of SIGGRAPH, great segue. Ashley and I actually met at SIGGRAPH, didn't we? I feel like we started.
Okay, wait. We met in an orientation meeting together where someone burped in the orientation meeting. Do you remember that? That was disgusting.
I do remember that, but
and
I do.
And then a month later, we were at SIGGRAPH, and Richard was like, "I know you. We were at an orientation together. And then you also live in the same state as me." So instant friends, because we're so disconnected from our headquarter brethren who get to be in the cool office that we.
Yeah, we're both Floridians. We'll be running from hurricanes in a few weeks.
But, California.
Just to close off, again, we have got an exciting live stream, not in 1 week, but 2 weeks. On the 24th, we're going to be reviewing all the fantastic things coming to SIGGRAPH. And as Ashley mentioned, this year it is in Denver. It's the 50th anniversary of SIGGRAPH, or 51st, depending on how you count it.
50th in person. 50th first year, but 50th in person.
Yeah, I'm a big SIGGRAPH fan, and so I'm a mega fan. So I've tried to go to as many as I can. And speaking of going, I'm just going to bring this up again. If you're interested in going, we're running an amazing special. This registration code will get you a free expo pass to get the inside and walk the floor, and to even see Jensen's fireside chat. So it's definitely worth going. Again, if you can get out to is it the Rocky City or the Rocky Mountain City, whatever Denver's called. But it's a beautiful city, and we hope to see you there. And if you can't make it, then we have ways you can view it online and a virtual pass. But either way, we look forward to next week's live stream. I just want to thank my guests again for joining us on this really informative look into the future. And again, don't ever trust what you ever see again on the television. It's probably going to be generative AI, but we end with that wonderful idea. And I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thanks. Bye.